Ajahn, can you teach or give some instruction on the breathing meditation method, as I'm not very sure of this type of meditation? Thank you. That's what I've been teaching the last few days. When you're breathing meditation, first of all, settle down. The body, you settle down in the mind. In the Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddha said you go to a quiet place and then you establish mindfulness in front of you. What mindfulness in front of you means is actually getting into what I call the present moment awareness and silence. That's basic mindfulness. Because if you're thinking of the future, if you're thinking about the past, you're not really mindful, you're not really alert. You're somewhere else. And also, if you're thinking too much, you're not really mindful. Sometimes people think so much that they fall over things. They're just thinking of something in their head while they trip over the snake which is at their feet. So this is not really being mindful. So, to start the breath meditation, or any meditation, you've got to sit down, make the body comfortable, on a chair, on a cushion, and then establish basic mindfulness, alertness, awareness. And once you have that basic awareness, alertness, then you can choose your meditation object, whether it's breath meditation, loving-kindness meditation, or whatever, or body meditation. Once you choose the breath, as many of you who've been in the interview room have experienced, to tell you what I mean, I give people this little object lesson. I tell them to close their eyes, take 3 breaths with their eyes closed, and after the 3rd breath, open their eyes. When they do that, I ask them afterwards, how did you know you were breathing in and out 3 times? Whatever told you you'd breathe in and out 3 times, that's what you watch in breath meditation. Just that much. And anybody can do that. Especially it's wonderful if it's novices, people who've never meditated before. It's a great way of starting them off. Close your eyes, breathe in and out 3 times. At the end of the 3rd breath, open your eyes. Because I'm not telling them how to do it. You can do it naturally without being told. Do I have to tell you how to eat? You eat naturally. In the same way with breathing, you breathe naturally. But the point is that if we tell you how to watch the breath first of all, it messes it all up. So you watch the breath naturally. Wherever it happens to be is good enough. Again, when I was young, I was taught the breath meditation on the nose. Sometimes my nose was stuffed up with sinus problems. Couldn't watch the breath there. Then I was taught on the belly. Sometimes I was too close to my stomach, and as a young man, that was a very important part of my anatomy. And so I just got disturbed. And when I figured out that you don't have to watch the breath anywhere, you watch it where it is, it became quite clear to me how to watch the breath. Naturally, however the breath happens to be, wherever happens to be, that's where and how you watch it. Your job is just to watch, not to do anything. It's like you go in there into the kitchen area, you just watch people cooking. You are not allowed to do the cooking, you can just watch. You can't even give advice. All you can do is watch. You can't do the breathing, you can't give advice to the breathing. Please, breath, be at the tip of my nose, be at my stomach. Don't give any advice at all, just watch. So that's what we do with the breath meditation. We establish the breath in our mind. There are techniques which you can use to actually follow the breath. Sometimes people use mantras with the breath, such as the famous mantra of the Thai forest tradition. As you breathe in, you think to yourself, Bud. As you breathe out, To. Bud ho, Bud ho, Bud ho, with the breath. Because if you actually use a word with it, it tends to make it easier to watch. Or you can do a noting with the breath, saying just in, breathing out, out, in, out. Or you can do counting the breath. Breathing in 1, breathing out 1, breathing in 2, breathing out 2. If you're doing the counting, this is a method I used for counting the breath when I was a young monk. I breathe in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 3, out 3, up to 9. In 9, out 9. And I start again. In 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, in 8, out 8. Up to 8 this time. The next one, in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6. This time up to 7. In 7, out 7. Then in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 3, out 4. In 5, 5, 6, 6, up to 6. And then in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 3, out 3, in 4, out 4, in 5, out 5, up to 5. In 1, out 1, out 2, in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 3, out 3, this time up to 4, in 4, out 4. Then in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 3, out 3. And then from 1 to 2, in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2. And lastly, in 1, out 1. Reducing it by 1 every time. And that means you'd have to watch 45 breaths in a row. And it was complicated because you had to know where you were in the 8th cycle or the 6th cycle. And so it gives you something to work with if you've got complicated minds. So this is actually one way of counting. You don't have to do it that way. If you really get bored with this meditation, you can count backwards. In other words, breathe out 1, then in 1. Out 2, in 2. Try it. It is very, very different. Out 3, in 3. So you start with the out breath. So there's different ways of just getting the breath meditation a little bit more interesting. And then once you've got the breath meditation pretty much in mind, let go of all the counting, let go of all the bud and do's, let go of all the noting, so you can just watch the breath. So you feel the breath, rather than adding anything to it. What that is actually doing, again, you're focusing on one thing, everything else is being left behind, like the simile of shooting the arrow into the eye of the bird. Everything else, such as your body, the past and the future, even the people around you, all disappears. And all you're left with, just like the archer's just got one eyeball left in his consciousness, the target. All you've got left is the breath in your consciousness, nothing else. So that's a degree of one-pointedness, focusing on one thing. At first, when you try and focus on something like the breath, it will always be difficult. One of the great techniques is to use a bit of loving kindness on the breath, to embrace the breath. Look upon the breath as your friend. If you look upon the breath as a friend, you like to hang out with your friends. You like to spend time with your loved ones. So make your breath your loved one. So then it's very easy to spend time with the breath. Soon it does actually become very peaceful and very happy. Once you have happiness with your meditation object, what I've sometimes called the beautiful breath, in other words, it's so joyful, so lovely, you're just sitting here watching your breath going in, going out. When it gets to that stage of happiness, that's the stage you don't need any more effort. You just want to watch the breath. And the mind doesn't want to leave it. That's the most important stage in the meditation, because once you have that, you can let go and everything just falls into place. The breath becomes so beautiful, brilliant, lights come up, get into jhanas, it's easy from that stage. The point is to get the happiness in the meditation. And that's what we do. We do with the breath meditation. By the time you get happiness to come into the breath meditation, the breath has done its job. That's the time you let go of the breath. It disappears. And all you're left with is the happiness, the joy. And the breath, you don't know whether you're breathing in or breathing out or breathing at all. Just like the body of the bird is gone when you watch the eye. Then the eye is gone as you watch the little pupil in the middle. You're all going in. You've gone beyond the breath. And that's wonderful. So that's the breath meditation in a nutshell. Any questions about that from the floor? Okay, next question. When doing walking meditation in Vipassana, we are mindful of the movement of the feet. When doing walking meditation in Samatha, should we be mindful of the breath or of the feet? Yeah, in Samatha meditation, you're mindful of the feet. Because what's happening there, first of all, when you start walking meditation, you get yourselves nice and comfortable, find a nice path. That's similar to sitting down on a chair or on a cushion for your sitting meditation. When you do walking meditation, next thing you should do is to come into the present moment, just like sitting meditation, let go of all the past and the future. The next thing in walking meditation is try and calm down the inner commentary, the thinking, till you get some silence. The same as the sitting meditation. Calm the mind down, let go of all the thinking and all the words. Because that's establishing mindfulness. So if you're doing walking meditation, establish mindfulness first of all. Collect yourself in the present moment, in the silence. And then you can pick up your meditation object, which in walking meditation is watching the movement in the feet. There's no difference between samatha and vipassana. When you do walking meditation, you watch the feelings in the feet. You can note them at the beginning, just the same as you can count your breath. But after a while, when the mind focuses on the feelings in the feet, and you're pretty settled in there, you don't need to do any noting. You don't need to do anything. You just feel the movement in the feet. And as you walk, you don't have to decide you're walking fast or you're walking slow. Allow it to happen naturally. So you're not forcing or controlling things. You're allowing the body to do the walking. Just like you go and watch the people in the kitchen, you don't do the cooking. You just do the watching. So when you're walking, you're just watching. And I remember doing walking meditation as a young monk. And sometimes I would just go so slow, the distance between that wall and the wall to my left, your right, took 30 minutes because I was walking in this hall which had a grandfather clock. And when I'd walk back again, another 30 minutes. That's how long it took from one end to the other end. Because I just wanted to go slow. When you do this, your mind gets very, very peaceful. And this is actually what happened to me. I remember once walking meditation in Bangkok. And before I'd reached, back to where I started, it's only 2 laps of the hall, that way and back again. A monk came up to me because I'd been walking too slow and I had to go to a dana, a house dana, and he came to get me because I was late. And he came up to me as I was just lifting my foot, so quiet and so still. And he said, "Brahma Wangso." And it was like he was right next to my ear. It was like listening to someone 100 miles away. So he put his mouth almost in my ear hole. "Brahma Wangso." And it registered then. And I came away from my feet. And this is, you're watching me now, this is actually what I did. It took me, this is actually going quite fast, as I tried to move my head, actually to go and see. I'm going fast now. I moved my head. It took about a couple of minutes. He must have thought I was crazy. What? I was so peaceful, so calm. It's so hard to speak or even to move. No, that was calm. Incredible calm. So whether you're doing it for vipassana or samatha, they both go together. And you really get still in walking meditation. If you really get still doing walking meditation, watching your feet, then stop. Just stand there. You don't have to go fast at all. And see if you just stop there. Some people have got into jhanas when they're doing walking meditation, but you have to stop. It was because when you get into jhanas, you've got no recollection of your body at all. You don't know what's going on outside. You go right inside of you. So it's best to stop before you get into jhana when you're walking meditation. Otherwise, apparently, so one of my fellow monks tells me, there's one monk who's got such strong meditation in Thailand. He gets into jhana when he's walking. He keeps on bumping into trees. He's got all bruises over his head. You don't know what you're doing when you're in jhana, not outside. You know what you're doing inside, but not outside. So if you do get very still, when you're walking meditation, stand still. Don't move. Or even better, just sit down. That's walking meditation. Any questions about that one? Okay, next question. If I don't answer the question to your satisfaction, please tell me so. If not, you can always put a question in the box for tomorrow. Dear Venerable Ajahn, do we have to chant before meditating in an unfamiliar environment, like in a hotel room? Sukhi Hotu Sadhu. You don't have to do anything. You can just make your mind very peaceful and calm and still, and that will protect you. If you want to do chanting, it can be very useful. It's just like, do you have to have soup before you have your meal? Sometimes people like a soup before the meal, sometimes they don't. It's really up to you, the time and place. So there's no rule there. And for those of you who think that, oh, you're in a hotel room, maybe there may be some ghosts in that hotel room, because people actually do die in hotel rooms. Especially in these old hotels. You can get these very old, ancient hotels, especially in Europe. And there have been, those hotels have been there for so many years, the chances are that somebody has died in that room you're staying in. And some of them may be like old mansions or old, even monasteries, they turn them into hotels. So, I've heard lots of stories about, especially from like people who work for the airlines. They're either pilots or flight attendants, and they go to all these hotels in different countries. And they all know the rooms which are haunted. Because apparently the hotel, because it's like a contract with the airline, they will not give those rooms to their tourist guests. They usually give it to their business guests, like the airlines. And they put them in these rooms. And at night time, things rattle. There are sounds. And so you don't need to worry about that. If you're meditating, you're much stronger than any ghost. This is what happened to one of my monks. Not my monks, a monk I knew. He's disrobed now. He was meditating in the northeast of Thailand, in a very famous monastery, noted for its ghosts. And one day, he was meditating there. He got a bit tired, so he leaned against the wall, put his feet out, and he was dozing off when he felt something literally pull his leg and yank him. First of all, he thought it was a heavenly being, a deva, waking him up and getting him to meditate some more. But it kept on happening, and it soon was realized that sometimes he was sitting properly, and somebody would sort of bang him, or sort of pull him. And he realized it wasn't a deva, it was one of the ghosts, just being naughty. And after a while he would recognize it, because it always come in, after a while when he got used to it and familiar with it, come in with a bad smell. And that's a ghost. So the way he got rid of it, it came in one day while he was meditating. He realized it was going to come in and mess around. And so he said, "Ghost, you sit down here next to me and meditate and watch your breath, or you get out of here. Stop playing around." He was firm. And the ghost went away and never came back again. Because the ghosts don't like meditating. So that's what you do, you're just firm. So if you go into a hotel room, there's a ghost or whatever, just say, "Right, I'm staying here. I pay for this room, not you. Get out." And if you're firm, you've got more power. If you're meditating, you've got far more power than any ghost, and they'll run away. So you don't need to chant to get rid of ghosts. You're already very safe as a meditator. You keep your precepts, you're fine. What you can do, though, is chant just to get yourself settled in, and to bring up some happiness in the mind. That's all, but it's not absolutely necessary. Okay? Dear Ajahn, in the event of death, how does one prepare oneself to accept death? Thank you, Sadhu. When you die, it's very common, people experience out-of-the-body experiences. They go out of their body, look, see what's going on. Eventually they float towards the light. You ever heard of that one before? What do you think that light is? Have you heard a word called nimitta? It's exactly the same thing. In meditation, when your five senses are turned off, they suppress. You can't see, you can't hear anything, you can't smell, taste, you can't even feel your body. When those five senses are turned off, that's when the light appears in deep meditation. It's the same when you die. Those five senses are turned off forever. And you see the mind, the light. So in this type of meditation, you are literally having a rehearsal for your death. This is actually what happens. So you're trying it out before you actually really die. It's great having rehearsals. Even when you get married, you can have a rehearsal at the whatever it is you get married. And when you do examinations, you do a rehearsal first of all. And some even concerts have rehearsals. So this is a rehearsal for death. So you're finding out what it's like. This is the best way to prepare. So basically all you need to do is to make lots of good karma, be generous, be kind, be compassionate, do service. Keep your precepts absolutely pure. Be compassionate and kind, absolutely pure. Be compassionate and kind in your life. Practice meditation, learn some wisdom. In other words, practice the Eightfold Path. That's the best preparation for death. And those people who have practiced well in their life, they always die so beautifully. It's a privilege to be around a practitioner when they die. So inspired. They can be in great pain, physical pain, and they don't complain at all. They're so peaceful, so kind. And even at their death, they're thinking of others, never themselves. And it's beautiful to behold someone who knows how to meditate, how to be at peace, how to be compassionate. But of course, they've got no fear. They lived a good life. When you go on holiday, suppose you had a first-class, 5-star holiday overseas. Your dream vacation. I don't know where it would be. Imagine your dream vacation and you won some prize, the best meditator at Cempaka Lodge retreat in 2004 December gets a special prize and you've won it. You can go over all expensive paid, luxurious holiday to your dream destination. Would you be afraid to go? In the morning when you wake up, the day you're going to go, you think, oh, I don't want to go. So you'd be so excited, I'm going. Oh, isn't it wonderful? That's what happens when you made lots of good karma. You're going to your dream destination, a nice heaven realm, all beauty and wonderful. If you get reborn as a human being, you get an even better life than you have now. Or who knows, there may be Nibbana. Oh, why are you afraid? Bring it on. You can't wait to go. So this is someone who's done lots of good karma. They get dead, come on, quick, I can't wait. Next question, that's how to prepare for death. Some of us came late and reported only late afternoon yesterday. Could you kindly, in brief, let us have your instruction on sitting and walking meditation? Thank you. I think I've just given that earlier, so I'll pass off that question. If you want any more instruction on that, please come up to the interview. Ajahn Brahm, when the nimitta grows brighter, I couldn't concentrate on my breathing and my heart starts to beat very fast. What is the reason? When is the right time to let go of breathing and concentrate on the nimitta? You don't decide. You let go and let the nimitta decide, or let the mind decide. For those of you who have a trouble with this, not so sure whether you should stay with the breathing or stay with the nimitta, sometimes you go to the nimitta and it's not ready yet, so it all falls apart. Sometimes you stay with the breath and it doesn't need to be with the breath, it needs to go to the nimitta. So what should you do? A very good way of dealing with this is to go back to that simile of the bird and the archers. It's why I tell these similes again and again, because they're very accurate and you can use those similes in many, many different cases to answer problems. It's as if the archer is focusing, the tree's disappeared, most of the bird has disappeared, you see its head and you've got the eye in the middle, and sometimes you focus in on the eye, but it's too soon. It's like the eye is in the middle, but you can still see the head of the bird on the outside. And sometimes you can't really go into the eye, so the mind comes back out onto the head of the bird. Sometimes you might go focus in a little bit more, but then come out again. But it doesn't matter. Your job is to keep the eye of the bird in the center of your attention, in the center of the screen, which is your attention. Keep the breath on the outside as the nimitta is in the middle. Keep the eye of the bird inside as the head is on the outside. What we mean there is that stage you can see both the nimitta and the breath, but keep the nimitta in the middle of the breath, as if the nimitta is in the middle and the breath is surrounding it. And then what happens is, if the mind is focused enough, if it's still enough, the nimitta will actually take up all of the vision and push the breath out over the edges out of your consciousness. If it's not the right time, so the breath, as it were, would close in and squeeze the nimitta out, and you just have the breath. This is actually how we can practice. And this is similar if you're watching the breath and there's distractions such as sounds outside or feelings and pain in the body. Make sure if you're doing, say, the breath meditation, you can still hear sounds or feel things in the body. Keep the breath in the center. And the feelings and the body or the sounds are on the outside, on the edge somewhere. And then you'll find as long as you keep the breath in the center and those other distractions are on the edge, it's only a matter of time when those feelings or sounds completely disappear and fall off the edge of your screen. However, if you think it's a problem, the pain is a problem or the sound of the person next to you is a problem, then actually what you do, you take that sound or that distraction and that is pulled into the center of the screen and then the breath falls off. You can hear the sound, you can feel the pain, but you don't know where the breath's gone because you've centered on the wrong object. So always center, the most central feature, the most important feature in your field of vision. For example, I'm centering on that microphone over there now. That's my main object of focus. I can just see dimly a few people sitting around it. But if I keep focusing on that microphone, it's already happened. You've disappeared. I just focused on the microphone. I can't see you. Whatever you focus on and keep central to your mental vision will eventually fill up your whole mind, and what's on the edge will disappear. So if you're nimitta breath, keep the nimitta in the center. The breath is on the outside. If it happens that it's the right time, the nimitta will fill up the whole screen and the breath will fall off. If not, the breath will close up and push the nimitta out from the center. Is that okay? Okay. We have another one here. How do you meditate when you have flu? Okay. It's amazing what you can do. Do lots of letting go meditation, lots of loving kindness meditation. Really relax. If you can watch the breath, you can watch the breath. And surprise, surprise, you can get so deep within you, you can't even feel the flu. And when you come out afterwards, you have no flu. This meditation is incredibly powerful. The deeper you go, the more powerful it is. Ajahn Chah used to tell the story. He had malaria for many years in Thailand. It was just common. Any monk who stayed in the forest, the jungle, would get malaria. It was just what every monk got. And he had it for about 3 or 4 years. On and off. And he said one day he got it so bad, he just got so fed up with having these terrible, debilitating fevers. He sat there and decided he's not going to move, just watch it. And again, he went into the center of it. He described what it was like. He went into the center of this fever. And he was saying it was like he was surrounded by this incredible hot fire, which got hotter and hotter, like in the middle of a stove. But where he was sitting, in the very center of it, it was just so cool. But around it, you could feel the heat. And it got hotter and hotter and hotter until it exploded. He never got malaria again. That was the end of it. It burned itself out. And I remember once, not quite like that, but I remember having typhus fever in a hospital in Thailand. This was 30 years ago. When I first became a monk. And in those days, this was in the town of Ubon. The northeast of Thailand was a poor area. It was the backwaters. It was a place which wasn't developed at all. That's where the best meditators were. And I got typhus fever, so I got sent to the hospital with this terrible fever. And it was very frightening. It was a backwater hospital of a third world country. So my first experience was, feeling just really terrible, with a fever. And then seeing at 6 p.m. the nurse leave his station, it was a monk's ward, disappear, and no one come to take his place. So after half an hour, I whispered, because that's all the energy I had, to the monk in my next bed, should we tell somebody there's no night nurse? And he turned around and said, what do you mean? There never is a night nurse. If there's any problems at night, if you take really sick, that's just bad karma. So they had all these really, really sick monks, some of them dying, and no nurse or doctor looking over them at night time at all. We're just left to our own resources for 12 hours of the day at night time. As soon as I said, what kind of hospital is this? I want to go home. And worse than that even, because they didn't know what fever I had. It was only after a few years later we found out what these fevers we all got was typhus, scrub typhus. That they had to have injections in your bottom, in your buttocks, twice a day. Now you might think that's not much, but if you remember the needles 30 years ago, before you had this wonderful technology of sharp, painless needles, those needles were very thick, and they were always reused many times. Because this was a poor hospital, they'd be sent to Bangkok first of all, and once they finished with them in Bangkok, they'd send them up to the provinces to save money. And once they used them in the ordinary wards, then they'd use them in the monks' wards, because the monks were supposed to be tough. And so these needles were, you wouldn't believe how blunt they were. To put them in your buttocks, you had to stab it in. So this nurse, she wasn't injecting, she was stabbing me twice a day. She was built like a water buffalo, this really big, strong lady, because she had to be. And twice a day, bang, whoa. It really hurt. Like being caned. What really hurt. And so, every time I saw this nurse twice a day, oh no. It was so awful. But one day, having very sore buttocks, being really so tired and feeling awful, I decided, okay, stop messing about, let's watch my breath. Let's meditate. And so I meditated, and I got into really nice deep meditation. Now, like having a nice meditation is a lot of bliss at any time. But when you have a terrible fever and you really feel so weak, tired and sore, it's wonderful. It's just such a relief to have like an hour or two away from that aching, sore body. But one of the things was, it surprised me, it said you can do those things. Even in a fever, you can get into deep meditation. When you're sore, when you're weak, you can do it. Interestingly, that I looked at my posture when I finished the meditation. It was no posture I've ever seen in any meditation manual. The legs and arms were all over the place. And it proved to me that yes, you can get into deep meditation no matter how you're sitting. But it also showed that you can get into deep meditation even when you're very, very sick. So if you've got a flu, you can still do it. No trouble. Just got to be careful. Go right in the center. And you go to a place where there's no flu, where there's no body, where everything's nice and peaceful and blissful. Chances are afterwards you'll have no flu when you come out. Any questions on that one? Okay, next question. Ajahn Brahm, when I am doing walking meditation, what should I watch, my breath or my step? I think I've answered that one. Just watch your step when you're walking meditation. If you really want to watch your breath, okay, you can, but it's preferable to watch the steps. I never actually mentioned the person who got lots of, the heart started pounding when they started getting nimittas. This is just excitement, that's all, because, something's happening at last. Jhana's coming close, I'm going to see a nimitta. Oh, isn't it wonderful? Don't spoil it by getting excited. Nice things are happening, you blow it. So next time, be calm. So the heart will calm down, and you'll be able to stay those beautiful experiences without any problem. But I'm going to say some more about that this evening in like mindfulness, because it's something which I've been using for many years and teaching for many years. I call programming mindfulness. And that's be especially useful for people who have a recurring problem, such as when you get deep in meditation, the heart starts pounding with excitement. But I'll talk about that this evening. Ajahn Brahm, I'm sick now, having a cold. I once heard that meditation would help us to stimulate our body for faster healing recovery. Is this true? Yeah, it does. I've already mentioned if you get to deep meditation, you just blow the cold away. But not only that when you get into deep meditation, or not even deep meditation, ordinary meditation, you may have the experiences that parts of your body jerk like your hand goes up or something jerks. Sometimes you have the experience of you get very hot in some part of your body, like the head might get very hot or the back is very, very hot. And people often come and say, what is that? What's going on? What happens when you meditate is that because you're letting go and you're relaxing, the body is feeling free, especially when the body disappears in your meditation. The energy flows in the body have a chance to flow freely without being blocked. As you all know, in Chinese medicines, the energy flows, the qi going through the body. When they get blocked, that's called sickness. In Indian medicine, they used to call it the winds flowing through the body. And when they get blocked, that's called sickness. When you meditate, those winds, those energy flows, can flow freely. And sometimes it happens that when you're meditating, when you're not trying to do anything, when you're really relaxing, the energy can flow freely for the first time, maybe weeks or even months. And they flow to that part of the body which needs some healing. What happens is part of the body gets very hot. If you actually look at it afterwards, it's actually red. Healing has happened there. And sometimes you wonder, I didn't think I was sick there. The body knows what to do. You probably had an incipient sickness there. As a woman, you might get some heat in your breasts. You had an incipient cancer coming along. Meditation and the heat healed it. One lady recently, she came up to me in interview time. Her whole back and shoulders were really hot in one meditation. I mean, really hot. She wondered, what's going on? My first question, Madam, have you ever had any injury to your back and shoulders? And she just laughed. She said, I've had a bad back and shoulders for years. I said, well, you're not going to have one now. Well, it's going to get much better. Because the energy could actually flow to that area. That's what happens sometimes. You can't try to do this. It just happens naturally. In one retreat I taught in Sydney, one of the meditators was making this awful noise throughout every meditation. He was breathing so heavily, so much so that somebody in there questioned, can you tell people to be quiet when they're breathing? And then I announced that that man is dying of cancer. He's got sinus cancer of the sinuses. He's maybe only got 2 or 3 months. He wants to give this meditation a shot, just in case it might do something. And everyone went quiet. They never asked that complaint again. Please breathe as loud as you like. Because he was dying, poor fellow. On one meditation, he told me in his interview, he heard a pop in his nose. That's how he described it. It went pop. He could breathe again. He said it was amazing. It was magical. It closed up soon after. But for the first time, he didn't know why that happened. He could breathe through his nose. And he hadn't been able to breathe through his nose for a long time because of the cancer blocking his air passages. I thought he had actually died because his cancer was so far advanced. But he survived. I saw him in November in Sydney. Really, really well. His meditation had cured his cancer. So this is what you can do. So but you really relax, let go, and your body opens up and it starts healing itself. Dear Ajahn, being an active person, I wonder if there's a form of exercise meditation other than walking meditation, which can be practiced. And is it practiced with the mind? Will the mind be easily distracted? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. It's good to be active, but it's also good to be still. So do both. When it's time to do something, do it. When it's time to be still, still. So those of you who are very active, sit on your cushion and try and develop the peaceful meditations. And then your activity will be more active. You need to balance. So there's no real substitution there for walking meditation and sitting meditation. Because if you're really active, sometimes it's just restlessness. What are you running away from? Learn how to be still. Dear Ajahn, how to use the heart and not the head? I really don't know how. Trying for so many years and being to a few of your retreats, I don't know how to ask this. Ajahn, please give a few tips to guide me, something I can use in daily life and retreat. Okay, use the heart instead of the head. In the head you think. The heart knows. It feels. A good example of this is, for those of you old enough to remember the Vietnam War, that there was this atrocity in the Vietnam War called the My Lai Massacre, where a whole, number of US soldiers went into the village of My Lai, and their orders were to kill every man, woman and child, no matter who they were, murder the whole lot of them. It was a war crime. When it was found out what had happened, the lieutenant in charge, Lieutenant Kelly, was court-martialed. And it was a big scandal in the international press. But that happened, as you know, the Vietnam War happened in 1970s. In about 1995, it was 25th anniversary of this massacre, or something, around about that time. A TV channel decided to try and trace as many of those soldiers as it could find, and to see what the effect, the psychological effect, what we'd say the karmic consequences of participating in such a war crime would be. And of those soldiers they managed to trace who participated in that atrocity, those of them were still alive. Some had committed suicide, some had died of cancers, of alcoholism. Of those that survived, they were all just a psychological mess. They couldn't have a lasting relationship with a woman. They were alcoholic, into drugs, under therapy. The karmic consequence was huge, living with that memory. But of course, there's always a couple of exceptions which actually help to emphasize, just the law of karma. One of the exceptions was this Afro-American soldier, because he had been born in poverty, and his only way to get a reasonable lifestyle was actually to join the US Army. But he had hardly any education, just made 3 or 4 years at school, that's all he had. But when he was ordered to go into that village and shoot every man, woman and child, he was the only one who said no. He refused. In an army, especially in war, to refuse an order meant only one thing: you go to jail, military prison. And military prison is much harsher than an ordinary prison. He knew what he was facing, but he had to go. He could not go into the village and shoot people. He spent 2 years in that military jail, but now he's one of the happiest, beautiful, loving persons. Of all those soldiers, he's the only happy one. And I asked him, how could you do that? You had no education. You knew what you were going to face by saying no. And he said, listen, I just couldn't do it. I listened to my heart. No way I could do that, no matter what they do to me. I can't just go and shoot innocent kids, babies. He followed his heart, not his head. That's why he's happy and at peace. You don't need a great education to be able to do that. Sometimes your education gets in the way of knowing what's really right and wrong. So follow that heart. Even in your meditation, sometimes there's not a teacher around. What should I do? Stop thinking about it. Feel it. Meditation, especially the deep states, are emotional states. Ecstasy, bliss, peace are emotions. Which is why I'm going to get into trouble here with the men, but it's why that women have an easier time getting into jhanas than men do. The reason is because they're more at ease with emotional states. They don't need to think so much about them. The men, they think a lot about them. What is this? What is this nimitta? What should I do about it? However, women have an easier time getting into samadhi, but the men catch up. Once they do get into samadhi, they got an easier time with wisdom, figuring out what it all means. So they catch up on the insight practice. So there it comes even. But the ladies have an easier time getting into the jhanas because it's an emotional state, not a thinking state. That's why get into the heart, not in the head. The next question. I would like to do Buddhanussati sometimes. I would chant Itipiso silently, but I'm not sure if this is the way. Do I chant and visualize the Buddha or think of one of his qualities? What is the way to do Buddhanussati? Do we do Buddhanussati in all postures? Is contemplation, reflection equals thinking? Thanks, Ajahn, for your guidance. Buddhanussati literally means remembering, reflecting on the Buddha. You can use the chant of Itipiso as long as you know what it means. In other words, it brings up the memory of the Buddha, or as someone said, they just look at the Buddha statue behind me. And they focus on that. That's Buddhanussati. If you've been to India, to the holy places, you can picture the Buddha sitting on the Vulture's Peak, or in the Jeta Grove Monastery, or at Kusinara, or wherever you've been. That's Buddhanussati. You're remembering the Buddha in his life, his being. And it becomes so inspiring, whatever you use to bring up this great inspiration in your heart, this joy, this happiness. As a Buddha has arrived in the world. And it's still, as far as the cosmic time is concerned, it's not that long ago. To some Devas, it's only a couple of days ago when the Buddha was alive. That's why the Dhamma is so powerful still in this world. You're very fortunate to be reborn. And just after the Buddha passed away, the Dhamma is still incredibly strong. So that way, you can actually reflect upon the Buddha to inspire yourself. You can do that chant. You can do your own chant. You can remember the Buddha in your own ways. You can visualize the Buddha. You can look at the Buddha statue. Whatever it does, which gives rise to inspiration. That's how you do Buddhanussati. So be innovative. Do it your own way. It's the best. You can do it in all postures. And it's not really thinking, it's directed thinking. So in other words, you're not allowing yourself to think about lunch, to think about your kids, to think about the stock market, to think about whatever it is you're thinking. It's just directed thinking on one thing. And soon, you will stop all thinking when you get inspiration. Is that okay? Any questions on that? Uh-oh. Time to... Oh, that's 9 o'clock. Next question coming up now. For one who is hard-hearted, how to cultivate gentleness? How does one know one is controlling the mind? How not to control the mind? If you are hard-hearted, then you've got to do lots and lots and lots of metta-meditation. Just to think of yourself. Actually, you're not hard-hearted. What you are, you're like one of these chocolates. On the outside you're hard, but on the inside you've got a soft center. But because you haven't gone deep enough, all you see is the hardness on the outside. Everybody's got the soft center inside. Even the hardest of people, sometimes I've been in these prisons to see these rapists, these multi-murderers. Some of them are just so soft. I believe they see a little cat. And they to make sure it gets extra, they save some fish for their own meal and take it back into their room to give to the little cat or kitten. Some of the people you think is just so hard, but inside is so soft. So, what you have to do is you have to go through that hard casing to see your soft center. And then you realize you're not really hard-hearted. And once you get in touch with those emotions, away from your head, into your heart. It's such fun being soft and being kind and being compassionate. You get so much happiness out of being soft. But once you get in there, you never come out again. You never be hard ever again. How does one know one is controlling the mind? If you're controlling the mind, you get headaches, you get tension. You get pain in the body also. How many of you can ride a bicycle? You've ridden a bicycle before? When you first rode a bicycle, what was it like? You were so tense. You were controlling so much. You got tense and you kept falling off. Because you were tense, the body wasn't loose enough to adapt to the changing posture needed. That's why you fell off. After a while, you learn to relax when you're riding a bicycle. And you never fell off. Because you were nice and loose, you weren't tense, the body could move this way or that way to keep your balance. It's like when you first drive a car. Oh, you're so tense. Do you have driving license tests in Malaysia? You kept failing your test because you're too tense. Now you drive around, you're talking to somebody, you're listening to a CD, you're so relaxed, sometimes you're too relaxed. But you can see how you really relax when you stop controlling. Oh, I'm going to fall off, I'm going to crash. And you relax. Usually you don't fall off, you don't have crashes. So that's how you should relax more. If you're not controlling, everything just flows freely. If you're controlling, you'll find you get tension. And the signs of tension, again, are all these diseases like irritable bowel syndrome, sort of the heart problems, migraines, all these problems because you're too tense, you're controllers. And the poor body hasn't got a chance to heal itself. You get so many headaches, so tense, you can't even enjoy your food. That's why you don't digest it properly. So relax. Breathing, this method I said the other day about this Thai monk, breathe in, sabai. Breathe out, sabai. Sabai means like beautiful, nice, wonderful, lovely. So that's all you do when you meditate. Breathe in, sabai. You breathe out, sabai. Oh, that's really nice. And then you find you relaxing. And it's so easy to do because it's fun. When you have tension, breathe in, breathe out. Just controlling. I don't do that. Okay, next question. Here we go. Can Ajahn please go through briefly again the basic method of meditation, the steps? Okay, I think I did that already this morning. Next one. In the first day, sometimes I wonder whether I should give a talk or not because people are just so tired. Their mindfulness is not all that strong. Whatever you say in the first day, people don't hear anyway, so... But anyway, is developing nimitta the only way to jhanas? If you get into a jhana, you will go through a nimitta, but sometimes you won't notice it. It is the only way. However, that sometimes people don't notice a nimitta on the way in. However, if that's the case, it's very hard to repeat the experiences. It's much better to develop the nimittas so that you have a proficiency in entering these jhanas. It is the usual way of going in. Sure, you can go your own way, which people love to do, but the well-tried, well-trod path is the best way. So try to develop those nimittas. It's worth your while developing them, because once you understand what they are, you get heaps of insight from those, as I will tell you later on. And also, it's a much surer path into the jhanas. You know exactly where you are, you know what to do. And in the Anapanasati Sutta, the jhanas and their developments are the 9th, 10th, and 11th stages of Anapanasati, where you experience the mind. Chittapati Sangvedi. That's the 9th. The mind is here, your reflection of the mind. That's when you see the nimitta. And you have Abhipamojayang Chittang, which is you brighten up the mind, you delight the mind. In other words, you get that nimitta bright and brilliant. And then Samadhahang Chittang, you settle it down so it's still. Getting the brightness and the stillness are the 10th and 11th stages of Anapanasati. And the 12th stage is Vimochayang Chittang, to free the mind, which any Pali scholar would know means gaining the jhana, freeing the mind from the world. That's the 12th stage of Anapanasati as the Buddha taught it. So this is actually how the Buddha practiced in Anapanasati. Get to that stage where the nimitta, the reflection of your mind, arises, brighten it up, stabilize it, and then you get into the jhanas. That's the tried and tested way. Dear Ajahn, whenever I breathe as a meditation object, whether it is at the chest, abdomen or nostril, my breathing will become unnatural and forceful. Can Ajahn advise how to solve this problem? Yeah, this is actually a common problem because as soon as you look at something, you control it. It's as if as soon as you look upon it, it's almost as if it's yours and you take possession of it, you grasp it. That's why it's not natural. Here you're getting some insight into what grasping is. How we can't leave things which we see alone. A mountaineer goes to the top of a mountain. What's the first thing they do? Put a flag on top. They can't leave anything alone. And after a dozen mountaineers have gone on top of the mountain, then they build a restaurant on top. Can't we leave nature alone? No. Same as when we got the breath. When we watch the breath, we tend to mess around with it. Now the way to solve that problem is to give kindness to the breath. To embrace it rather than control it. To say to the breath, breath, the door of my heart is open to you no matter what you are like. Unconditional loving kindness to the breath. So if the breath is uncomfortable, fine, I can still be your friend. Yeah, I can still watch you because you embrace not just the things you like, but even the uncomfortable breath. You embrace it as a friend. When you embrace it in that way, it's only a short time before the breath settles down and it's natural again. What you're learning here is how to watch something without interfering with it. It's a hard thing to do, to watch and let go at the same time. Usually what we watch, we control. When you watch your body, you may not notice this, but you're controlling it as you're watching it. That's why it never really relaxes. After you watch your body a while, you can actually watch it and let it go, relax it, and it just disappears because you're not holding it. And that's when it feels lovely. You can watch your breath at first, you're holding on to it. After a while, you find it relaxes. And that's a great stage of meditation when you're watching the breath effortlessly and it's just beautiful, it's nice. Now you understand what I mean about this meditation of being able to watch and let go at the same time. You start with the coarse thing, like your body, and then you go to your breath. And then eventually you get the nimitta. When you first get a nimitta, it's powerful, but you're not at ease with it. Because what you're watching, you tend to want to control it. And you have to learn how to watch the nimitta, but not control it at all. To be able to watch a nimitta and let it go at the same time is incredibly difficult. If you don't do that, it disappears. But eventually you can just watch these things as if they're somebody else's. You watch them and free them at the same time. And now that's how to watch, to have mindfulness and letting go. That's the path into deep meditation. So I agree with you, it's hard to do, but this is a training. Wherever you watch it, you'll be controlling it at first, but stay with it. After a while, it will settle down, and you'll be able to watch without interfering. Great question. Great question. A Buddhist spiritual path requires him or her to let go and be content. However, this is conflicting with worldly goals. For example, a businessman's goal is to pursue more business. Products have to be improved, etc. And the driving force is discontentment with what we have. As Buddhists, when we are out of retreats and back to the outside world, the two values differ greatly most of the time. How do we balance both? How should we explain to non-Buddhists who may feel that Buddhism is too restrictive for their lives due to letting go and be contented? Okay, this is a retreat. This is not business. That's why I'm telling you to be content when you're here. But when you go outside, you should work hard. Now look at me. Am I contented when I go outside? I've got so many monasteries to look after. If I was really contented on this retreat, I would have been staying in my room, wouldn't have come out this morning to give a talk. So, there's time for contentment. There's time to put forth energy and work. And obviously you have to know the time for both. When you're doing business, give it everything you've got, 100% effort. The time for both. When you're doing business, give it everything you've got, 100% effort. But when it's time for rest, give doing nothing, 100%. Now is not the time for doing business. I did not bring my monastery to Malaysia with me. In fact, I haven't got a clue what all those monks are doing. They may be having a big party right now, as far as I know. But I don't worry about it. I've let it go. Because when I come here, I'm just a teacher. I'm not an abbot. I'm a part-time abbot. When I'm in my monastery, then I'm abbot. When I leave, I'm not abbot anymore. Now do you understand how to let go? When you're right there, you give it everything you've got. When you're at your business, at your desk, full effort, and try to improve the products. It's not just for you, it's for all the people who work for you, whose families, their livelihood depends upon your business. So be innovative, put forth effort, do things, and make sure you get the sales. But if you get stressed out, sit down and give yourself a few moments of peace. Rest. Be content. It's like going on a journey. Every now and again, if you're walking on a journey, you have to sit down and rest. To be content with how far you've come, so that you can rest. When you've rested in contentment, you've recharged your batteries, then you go walking again. Even your car has to stop from time to time at the gas stations to fill up with petrol. So do you. And this, my friends, is the gas station of life, meditation, where you can fill up your energies of the mind. Okay, so there's no conflict at all. Sometimes people hear a conflict because when I'm teaching a meditation retreat, I teach meditation, contentment. But when you're giving a motivational course to someone, you say, go out there, full effort, 100%, in the moment, give it everything you've got. Otherwise, I'd be a hypocrite. I'm building this retreat center. So how discontent can you be? We've got a monastery for the monks, we've got a monastery for the nuns, we've got a city center in Perth. Now Ajahn Brahm wants a retreat center as well. Oh, that's really being discontent. But no, when there's time to do something, you give it everything you've got. When it's time to relax, you give letting go everything you've got. Then you're a very effective person. Okay, next question. Ajahn Brahm, in one sitting lasting more than an hour, I can see two methods, metta and vipassana meditation. If so, which should I start the sitting with first, and which should I end with? It doesn't matter at all. If you started with metta, you're doing vipassana, it's just running behind. If you're doing vipassana, you're doing metta as well. Whatever one you're starting with or finishing with, both begin, both end together. In a while, actually you'll see that. If you're doing loving kindness meditation, number one, you're learning what loving kindness is. You're getting insight into the meaning of metta. As the metta develops, you get more insight. The mind becomes brighter, it sees more. This is another simile I've been giving, which actually shows how calm and insight work together. It's a simile from life. It's one of my favorite ones. The simile of my monastery in Serpentine being 2 kilometers on top of a hill. I've been in that monastery now over 21 years. For about the first 10 years, I'd always go up that hill to the monastery, down that hill, going to some appointment in a vehicle. For over 10 years, I looked through the window of that road and thought I knew that hillside, because I saw it every day almost. But after 10 years, I decided to walk up that hillside. It was a lovely day. I needed the exercise, so I decided to walk up. When I started walking, I got a very strange experience. When I looked at the hillside, I could not recognize it. It looked very different to anything I'd ever seen before. And I thought, what's going on? I've been looking at that hillside for over 10 years. What do you mean I'm seeing it as if it's new? So I stopped. And when I stopped, the hillside changed again. When I stopped, I saw more things in that hillside, and it looked more beautiful. And those experiences, when you have an experience, you use insight to try and find out what's going on. And I soon figured out that this is just the nature of your senses. If you're looking through the window of a fast car, your eyes don't have time to register the light on the back of your retina before you have to go on to a new image. Because of that, the colors aren't fully formed. Everything is like washed out. The colors aren't rich. You haven't got time to understand all the details in the hillside before you have to move on. Even the sounds, the taste, or not the taste, the smells, the feeling of that hillside, you can't really appreciate it because your senses don't have time to fully form an image. Even knowing what's going on there. The mind, the brain has to go on to something else pretty quickly because the images flashing past through the window of a car come too fast. When you slow down, walking, the eyes have more time. Even physiologically, the light forms the chemical reactions, whatever it is in the back of the retina. The light which is formed there stays. The mind has more time to understand the imagery. You can see more details. You see much more, and what you see is richer. And when you stop and just stand still and look, you can see everything which is going on in that hillside. You've got all the time in the world to fully form the correct picture. And that's why when I stood still, that hillside was just so beautiful. I saw rocks, little mounds of earth, little bushes and saplings, which you can never see when you're going in a fast car looking through the window. You can understand scientifically what I'm talking about, but that's exactly the same way the mind works. Sometimes our life is like being in a fast car looking out the window. We've got so many things to do. We move our minds so quickly that all we know of life is just fleeting images. Even the colors, the texture of life is washed out. Nothing is very beautiful or inspiring because we're going too fast. When we slow down, and this is what you're doing in a meditation retreat, when you slow down, the senses have more time. You feel more. You see more. Even, and this is one of the experiences I noticed in my first meditation retreat when I was still a student at Cambridge. It was in a boarding house. This was in the 1970 or 71, I forget which. Cambridge boarding houses were renowned for how awful their food was. You used to have 3-course meals, stodge, stodge, and stodge, which all tasted the same. It's disgusting food because the people there were giving cheap accommodation to students and they couldn't afford to spend much money on food. So it was pretty coarse food you had to eat. But I thought we must have struck gold. We must have been so lucky because at this retreat, the food which the landlady gave us every day during this retreat was actually delicious. And I couldn't understand why. And only afterwards I realized it wasn't the food which was delicious. It was my senses had woken up because they were going slowly. That even in ordinary food you could appreciate the taste much more. You will notice that in any retreat you go on, the food is exceptionally delicious. It's ordinary food, but because you're going more slowly, you can see more in it. You can taste it more deeply, and the flavors register on your senses. with greater intensity. Basically, on a retreat, you add an extra 2 stars onto the restaurant. This is what we mean by calm and insight. The slower you go, the deeper you see. Which is why when you're going fast, you think you're seeing life, but you don't know life at all. Life becomes dull and grey the faster you go. Slow you go, the colours become richer, more contrast, more pronounced, and the whole of life becomes far more beautiful. Even those of you who are married in relationships, if you can't spend time with your partner, your relationship gets dull and grey. If you slow down and spend time, actually you start to appreciate more of the beauty in the person you're living with. Just as I could appreciate more beauty in a hillside when I stopped to look. Otherwise, it's all grey. The senses haven't got time to appreciate things. And you think mistakenly that's all that's there. Go slow and you see much more. That's why samatha and vipassana are a pair. Any questions on that? Okay. I'm not going to get through all these questions, so there's another time for tomorrow. Ajahn, when you mentioned if we encounter pain in our body during meditation process, we should go to the center of the pain and the pain will disappear. Can you further elaborate how to get into the center of the pain? A lot of times when pain comes along, we try and get away from it. We run away from pain out of fear. So sometimes we go in the opposite direction. Say, pain, come in. And I'm going to come in with you. Instead of running away, trying to find a aspirin or find some sort of balm on your legs or something else, just stay with it and go right into it. Stop running away. And let it be. Become one with your pain. And then you'll find you go into it by stopping running away. And then strange thing happens when you go into the center of the pain. Then there's no pain at all. It's just feeling, that's all. I'll say some more about that later on in mindfulness. Ajahn, has anyone injured themselves due to the long duration of sitting? Blood circulation does not flow so smooth. Thank you. I had that worry when I was a young monk. I'd be sitting down, maybe 30 minutes I was okay. 35 minutes my legs would start to go numb. Because the blood wouldn't be flowing. And I didn't know much about anatomy or physiology. I thought, oh my goodness, if the blood isn't flowing, then it's only a matter of minutes before gangrene sets in. If I don't move quickly, they'll have to cut my legs off. And I started getting all this fear. So every time when my legs started to go numb, I would change my posture so I'd never get into deep meditation. And one day I remember saying, I don't care, you can cut my legs off if you like, I'm not going to move. And I didn't move. And what happened? The legs were so numb. And then the blood started coming back again. All by itself. I never moved. I called the bluff of my body. If the body wants to pump the blood, it will pump the blood. It's just like, a kid saying, well, this is actually a very good simile about letting go. There was a Singaporean girl staying in my monastery. And she was saying that she was meditating, her mind was going all over the place. It was going here and going there. And she said, what should I do? I said, let it go. And I gave her this simile. I said, there was a disciple of mine in Perth. She had a 5-year-old or 6-year-old girl. And the 6-year-old girl would not do the small chores she had. And so the child got so upset with mother saying, I want to leave home. Only 6 years of age. So the mother said, okay, let's go up, we'll pack some bags. So the mother went to her room, packed a bag, and put a little doll in there, went to the kitchen, made her some sandwiches, gave her the sandwich, and the girl with a little suitcase and her sandwiches, the mother sort of waved her off at the gate. Have a nice life, thank you very much, been very lovely knowing you. And the child left home. It got about 50 meters down the road before the child turned around and came back again. Of course, a 5 or 6-year-old, where all a 5 or 6-year-old go? She just stood playing games. But the mother was very smart. Psychologically, she was 100% correct. Let the child go and it'll come back all by itself. And I said, that's what you should do with the mind. If the mind wants to be restless, pack its bag, give it some sandwiches. You want to go restless? Okay, off you go. Bye-bye. And then the mind comes back again. That's a great way of dealing with a restless mind. And this Singapore girl, she cracked up laughing. She was almost falling over because she did that when she was 7. In her apartment in Singapore, she got fed up with her mother for, don't know what, sort of disciplining her or something. She said, I can't stay in this house any longer, I'm leaving. And the mother did the same. Told her to go and pack her bags. She didn't give her sandwiches, she gave her $20 Singaporean for her life. Goodbye. And of course, she just got to the end of the street and came back again. It works. So, controlling the mind, that's actually what you do. Let it go. Now, same with like pins and needles. Leave it alone. The blood will come back by itself. Give it $20, say goodbye blood. It all comes back. Because the body will always balance itself. A strange thing, though, happens. I don't know how long you can sit meditation for before you start getting sore and painful. Say it's like an hour, and after an hour you're pretty stiff. If you get into deep meditation, the first time you get into deep meditation, you may be able to meditate for 2 hours or 3 hours. And you can't feel the body at all. And you think, my goodness, I might not be able to feel the body, but when I come out it's going to be really sore. You find when you come out of meditation, after a deep meditation, a long meditation, your body has got no aches or soreness at all. I don't know how this happens, because it should be aching. You sit absolutely still for such a long time, but you're no pain at all. It doesn't depend how long you sit. It depends on how you sit, whether you get pain or aches or whatever. So the long duration of the sitting, if you're forcing the long duration, controlling, yes, then it will hurt. Okay. But if you don't control it, you let it go and it becomes natural, it won't hurt at all. And after 3 hours or 4 hours of meditation, you won't have an ache or a pain in the body. Strange, but true. Next question. Ajahn, what is Chittanupassana? How do we practice it? How you practice, you've got a Chittanupassana is reflecting on the mind. Contemplating the mind. To be able to contemplate the mind, you've got to see the mind first of all. And very few meditators know what the mind is. This is where I stand out. I argue with many other monks on this point, but I say the only time you can do Chittanupassana is when you've got nimittas. When you can actually have a reflection on your mind. When you can actually know what this word chitta really means. You know that phrase, the prabhasarang etang chittang, the radiant mind, the prabhasara citta? You may have heard that because that's a common term which some of the meditators use, the radiant mind. You know what that is? That's what you see when you get in this beautiful radiant light. What the mind is, when the Buddha talked about it, deep mentioning actually a cliff. For us, it was my sixth sense. Don't need to take the mind, but take it for other senses. So to apply anything else. The same, if you are going to element, you've got to get your sample element first of all. If you've got, say, gold and there's traces of tin or iron in it, and you do your experiments, you won't get good results. You've got to get pretty pure sample of gold before you can test it and find out what it is. In exactly the same way, you've got to get a pretty pure sample of the mind, not tainted by any of the other 5 senses. Otherwise, you're not really investigating the mind. You're investigating an alloy of the mind. A mind mixed with one of the other senses. That's not real mind. And that means you don't get the full picture. When you get close to the real mind, just pure mind, you will find some amazing things. When you get to the nimitta stage, you reflect upon that, usually after the meditation. There's certain things you will clearly see. One of the things you will clearly see is this mind, because it's apart from the senses, the body has disappeared. You know that when you die, the body dies, the 5 senses disappear, but this which is apart from the body, this mind which you're experiencing now, you realize that that will continue on. There's no doubt at all afterwards about rebirth. You understand what happens when you're reborn. Now that's a great insight. That much is not just belief. You understand what happens when you die. You understand why you get reborn. Because that mind is not affected by death. You also understand this, well, the difference between men, women, races, animals, ghosts or whatever. Because that mind, that Prabhasara Citta, which you see in your deep meditation, is exactly the same which ladies, men, English, Australian, Malaysian, Singaporeans. The body is what separates us into gender, male, female, old, young, Singaporeans, Asians, Americans, or whatever. When we get to the Citta, that's what we all have in common. What we have in common with animals, with devas, with ghosts. Citta. Now you understand why we can get reborn from one plane to the next, because the basic Citta is the same. You understand when the Buddha taught why his teachings related to men, women of all races, of all classes, why they're also related to ghosts and to heavenly beings, because he was talking about the Citta, what we all have in common. This is where you really get into insight in the nature of these things. I say that there's three main insights, three main vijas. This is the earliest phase of Buddhism. The insight into rebirth, the insight into karma, and the insight into Four Noble Truths. What's called Tevijja, the three knowledges. Now this is what I hope you're going to get. Get that mind first of all, and the whole of the Dhamma will start to open out to you. Cittanupassī is the hardest of all the four satipatthanas. You need to get deep meditation to be able to do that. Dear wise Ajahn Brahm, what are some purification meditations? Having a shower? To cleanse the imprint of negative actions and to stop the nagging guilty feeling. Are there specific meditations to help us control anger, attachments and jealousy? With thanks. The purification meditations, you're doing them now. Letting go is the best purification meditation. You don't have to carry around the past. Now, this is actually a profound teaching. I've been giving this recently. I told it in Singapore recently. You know the stream winner? The stream winner is no longer liable to fall into the hell realms, the ghost realms, or the animal realms. Why? Why does it say the stream winner cannot get reborn into those realms? And why do people get reborn into those realms anyway? Did the Buddha construct the hell realms? Was he a sadist? This is one of the great arguments against the God. If God was the creator, who could create hell? That's the most uncompassionate, unkind, cruel thing to do. Why is there a hell? There are hell realms. You know why there's a hell? Because you make that hell. And the Buddha doesn't send you to hell. You send yourself to hell. This is a powerful insight I had a few years ago. Why do people go into hell realms? Because you think you deserve it. Some of those insights happened to me because I spent a long time with prisoners, talking to them, teaching them, and getting to know them. Every prisoner I met, they all felt guilty, really guilty. They would not show that usually to other prisoners and to other people. They put on a face, the defiant, tough prisoner. But, when you got close to them and they opened out like they do sometimes to a monk, you could feel their pain. Every day they felt the pain of what they'd done. This is called the conscience, the guilt. You have that. Everyone has that. As long as you have that, you're liable to go to hell. If you've done something wrong, you feel you need to be punished. You send yourself to hell. How can you get out of hell? Forgive yourself. Let go. I've been teaching that for such a long time. Why can't people forgive themselves? Angulimala could forgive himself, and he killed 999 people and let go and become an arahat, and not have to go to those hell realms anymore. To be able to forgive yourself, you have to have a profound full knowledge of anatta, non-self. As long as there's an idea of a self and a me, there will be guilt. It goes together. It's called attachment. Your acts and a self connect together It was me who did those acts. It's me who need to be punished. And there's no self, just cause and effect. Then you can actually let go. You can cut that link. When you cut that link, you don't need to go to hell anymore. Part of the stream winners, the major insight of a stream winner is non-self. To see what this whole process is. This thing which you take to be a body and a mind, which you take to be me, what it actually is it. And you see what it is. You also see why many people take this to be a self. You can see the mistake very clearly. When you see that mistake, never again will you think there's a self in here. It's a me or mine. It's just a process. It's not Ajahn Brahm. It's not Mangala. It's nobody. It's just a process. To see that fully, absolutely, 100% to its depth, you're a stream winner. When you see that, there's no one in here. There's no one needs to be punished. You can forgive to the point that never will you need to go to hell or to the lower realms ever again. It's part of the result of insight into no self, attain a stream winner. You've let go of guilt. So you don't need to be punished. Make a mistake, you learn, move on. The more that you can forgive yourself and others, the closer you're moving to anatta. You're closer moving to stream winning. That's a profound teaching. Hope you understand it. That's the best of the purifications. The wisdom into non-self. Then the whole thing gets cleaned. To stop that nagging, guilty feeling. If you can't do that, at least you can see just what a stupid thing it is to feel guilty. In my monastery, sometimes monks, Anagarikas, new people first of all, people joining the monastery, sometimes they make mistakes. And they feel so guilty because they come up with the conditioning of their lay life. They made a mistake, they want to be punished. And I say, oh, leave it alone, forget it. You're human, you make mistakes, learn from it, leave it alone. But sometimes it doesn't work. They want a punishment. So I'm an abbot, so I have to administer the punishment. So, to keep the Australian tradition, because Australia was a convict colony years ago, and when any of the convicts made a mistake, they would get whipped. Really cruelly, they used to use this cat of nine tails. So I thought, okay, let's follow the Australian tradition. If anybody wants to be punished, I'll give them 50 strokes of the cat. So that's my standard punishment now for any Anagarika. This is not this is my standard punishment for any person in the monastery who makes some mistakes and wants to be punished. I give them 50 strokes of the cat. Do you think that's cruel? I'd never hit anybody. 50 strokes of the cat in my monastery means this. In my monastery, we've got a little cat called Kit Kat. And I tell them, find that cat and stroke it 50 times. Oh, you poor cat. Because I say, you need to learn compassion. You don't need to be punished. You need to learn some more compassion by stroking a cat. It's a great way to learn compassion. And then maybe you can forgive yourself. So I never hit anybody. But I say that because sometimes when I first did that in Perth, people said, what? Ajahn Brahm whips people? And I could never do that. So no, I give 50 strokes to the cat in Buddhism. Find a cat and stroke it 50 times. Oh, nice cat. Learn some compassion so that you can forgive yourself. So anyone who's feeling guilty here, do something kind and compassionate for others. 50 times. And when you've learned compassion for others, then maybe you can learn compassion for yourself and let go of guilt. Forgive. And are there specific meditations to help us control anger, attachment and jealousy? Yeah? Interview, yeah. Anger, jealousy and stuff like that. It's a big thing. With anger, actually it's too much actually for today. Maybe later on we talk about anger. Otherwise, that someone get angry with me because it's interview time 5 minutes ago, but who cares? So, those of you who are having interviews, you can please come up soon. Please try and keep it to 5 minutes, no longer. So get your questions pretty much closely in your mind, so you know exactly what you're saying. Ask the questions, boom, boom, boom. This is, you've got like in the West, you've got fast food, drive-through service. This is fast food, drive-through interviews at the top. And lunch is 11:30, so hope you enjoyed those questions. The questions which I haven't answered, I'll put back in the box to be answered tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it. Happy meditating. See what happens next. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.